Henry Morgan, Edward Teach, better known as Blackbeard the Pirate, Francis Drake, the most famous pirates, those who struck fear into the hearts of ordinary sailors, were all men. It was believed that having a woman aboard a ship brought bad luck, so during the golden age of piracy, all young women could do was stay on dry land and tend to the home and children. However, a few women still managed to not only end up at sea, but become full-fledged members of pirate crews. Hello, friends. Welcome to OYLA Podcast. The golden age of piracy from 1650 to 1730 was a period in which piracy thrived on the busy sea trade routes of the Caribbean, as well as the Atlantic and Indian Oceans. Famous pirates such as Edward Teach, William Kidd, Bonny, and others were active during this time. A woman on board. In Western countries, women were forbidden from working on ships. This rule was even enshrined in the Pirate Code. Historians attribute this to two factors. One factor suggests that superstitious sailors believed that the presence of a woman on a ship would anger the sea gods and bring on a storm. According to another version, it was assumed that women would distract men from work and be vulnerable to oppression and violence from stronger crew members. Plus, serving on a ship was hard work, which not all men could handle, so it was assumed that women would struggle even more. For a long time, women were only able to serve on ships by disguising themselves as men, until their true identities were discovered. Only the daughter or wife of a captain or officer could legally become part of a ship's crew, but even then, their roles were limited to managing financial and inventory records, selling food, and cleaning. Sometimes captains' daughters performed navigation and controlled the ship, but only until it came time for them to assume the traditional duties of a wife and mother. This situation only changed in the 20th century, when men were recruited into the army during the World Wars and left their work posts, including those at sea. Yet even today, the number of women on ships remains low, with no more than 2% worldwide. Under a man's mask, Mary read. The primary income of Mary's widowed mother was a pension she received to care for her son from wealthy relatives of her husband. Mary herself was born out of wedlock. Mary's half-brother died young, and so to avoid losing her livelihood, Mary's mother disguised her as a boy and passed her off as her son from an early age. The young woman's disguise skills proved useful throughout her life. She was a footman, served in the army, and worked as a sailor. When her ship was captured by pirates, she was forced to join them. Among her new colleagues, Red found another female pirate, Bonny. It's not known for sure if Bonny disguised herself as a man or was open about her true identity. Both pirates are often depicted in men's clothing, but it's possible that they simply dressed that way for comfort. Mary Red met her husband on the pirate ship, a young man she saved by bravely entering into a duel with his foe, whom she defeated brilliantly. The couple wed right there on the ship, simply exchanging vows. In 1720, British authorities in the Bahamas attacked Red's ship and attempted to arrest the crew. All crew members except Mary Red, Bonny, and one other pirate hid in the ship's hold while the trio bravely fought to defend the ship. Despite their efforts, the battle was unsuccessful and the entire crew was taken to Jamaica, where they were put on trial. Red escaped the death penalty due to pregnancy, but she soon died after developing a fever in her prison cell. Bonny, adventure seeker. Bonny's love for adventure led her to the pirate ship. She left her husband and became the companion of the pirate John Rackham, who went by the name Calico Jack. Together with Rackham and his crew, Anne plundered trade ships on the waters of the Caribbean Sea. During their adventures, the pirate couple even had a child. It's unknown whether the ship's crew knew by then that there was a woman among them, as Anne spent the second half of her pregnancy in Cuba before returning on board. In a book titled A General History of the Robberies and Murders of the Most Notorious Pirates, a certain Captain Charles Johnson. Some believe that Daniel Defoe, author of Robinson Crusoe, wrote under this pseudonym, describes Bonny as a courageous and even ferocious warrior. According to the account, Bonny once inflicted such severe injuries on a male attacker that he was bedridden for an extended period. Both she and Mary Read were skilled with weapons. Each wielded a saber and pistol. Bonny's trial took place in 1720 in Jamaica, where she, like Mary Red, avoided the death penalty due to her pregnancy. It's unknown exactly what happened next. According to one version, Bonny's father, a wealthy plantation owner, arranged Anne's release from prison. It's said that Bonny then returned home to South Carolina, remarried, and lived to old age. Another version suggests that the young woman died in Jamaica in 1733. Zheng Yi Sao, Chinese pirate queen. When the enterprising young woman Xu Yang received a marriage proposal from a powerful pirate named Zheng Yi, she agreed on one condition: that she would receive equal authority over her husband's fleet. The newly titled Zheng Yi Sao, wife of Zheng Yi, the name under which our heroine became famous, emerged as an excellent negotiator and organizer. Together, the couple consolidated an entire confederation of pirates on the South China Sea. Zheng Yi and his wife controlled the largest fleet within the alliance. Zheng Yi Sao's pirates were subject to a strict code of conduct. They were forbidden from going ashore without permission or using violence against female prisoners, and were ordered to compensate townspeople for their food. They were also mandated to register their plunder before its distribution. The punishments for rule breaking were severe. Insubordination warranted execution by beheading, deserters faced ear amputation, and those found concealing loot were subject to flogging. In 1807, Zheng Yi passed away, but his widow carried on his legacy, attacking coastal towns and plundering trade ships sailing from Hong Kong to Vietnam. The loot included gold and silver, silk, spices, Chinese porcelain, cotton, and tea. During the height of Zheng Yi Sao's reign, she defeated 3 Chinese fleets and expanded her army to, by some estimates, 800 ships, 1,000 sailboats, and around 70,000 men. Qing authorities were never able to capture the pirate queen and offered her a deal. She would cease her plundering in exchange for a pardon and the chance to keep her loot. In the Chinese Empire, there wasn't a superstition about women on ships bringing bad luck, and it was not uncommon for young women to become sailors. Women were members of Zheng Yi Sao's fleet, and some even served as ship captains. Robberess Rachel Wall. Rachel's husband, George Wall, worked on a fishing schooner, but one day he returned home with bad company and proposed to his wife that they turn to piracy. To execute their plan, George borrowed a fast-moving boat from a friend and disguised it as a damaged ship. The couple waited near the coast of New Hampshire and lured victims by pretending that they were in trouble and their boat was about to sink. When sympathetic sailors allowed the poor things on board, they quickly turned into merciless pirates, robbing and killing their saviors. Over the course of their criminal spree, the crew robbed at least 12 ships, killed 24 people, and stole $6,000 worth of money and goods, which in today's dollars is equivalent to over $100,000. In 1782, the prank became a reality. The pirates' boat was caught in a real storm, and George and a few other sailors were swept out to sea. Rachel managed to survive and make her way back home to Boston, but it was hard to shake her old habits. The young woman continued her thieving ways by targeting ships anchored in Boston Harbor. Rachel was repeatedly tried for petty theft and robbery, and one of those instances proved to be fatal. She attempted to attack a woman to steal her bonnet and shoes, but was caught and arrested. Rachel vehemently denied her guilt and was much more willing to admit to piracy than theft. In 1789, she was sentenced to death by hanging. Driven by revenge, Sayyida al Hurra. Sayyida was born at the end of the 15th century in Granada, the last Islamic bastion on the Iberian Peninsula. In 1492, her family was forced to flee to North Africa to escape the Spanish conquerors. Sayyida married the governor of the city of Tétouan in Morocco, and when her husband died, she took the reins of power into her own hands. It was then that she acquired the Arabic title al Hurra, meaning free woman endowed with supreme power. Years passed, but the young woman couldn't forget how the Spaniards had robbed her of her homeland. She decided to turn Tétouan into a pirate city and plunder Spanish ships. The ruler needed a strong ally, so she turned to the Turkish corsair Hayreddin Barbarossa for help. They agreed that the young woman would control the western part of the Mediterranean Sea, and Barbarossa would control the eastern part. Pirates under Sayyida's leadership plundered European ships and coastal settlements. In 1540, her troops raided Gibraltar, where they took substantial loot and prisoners, forcing the Spaniards into negotiations. However, there isn't evidence that Sayyida herself ever went out to sea, commanded a boarding party, or took part in battle. It's believed that she directed all of her operations from land. For many years, the Pirate Queen's leadership successfully resisted the expansion of European powers. But in 1542, Sayyida's reign came to an end when she was overthrown by a distant relative. There's nothing romantic or noble about piracy. Having gone down a criminal path, our heroines robbed and killed completely innocent people, and their actions cannot be excused. Thankfully, women today have more opportunities. They can take up male professions and make their money honestly without hiding their identities.